Alright, so we've got some new information in regards to the technical power of the PlayStation 5 in combination with Final Fantasy 16 straight from Yoshi P himself, and we've also got an interesting story in regards to a cease and desist that Capcom has sent fan developers in regards to 2 fan-made Resident Evil projects. If you guys like what you hear and you want to keep up to date with Final Fantasy and Resident Evil gaming news, feel free to like and subscribe. So starting off with that first story from Yoshi P, Yoshi P just keeps dropping Final Fantasy 16 tidbits willy-nilly. Yoshi, let me sleep. My man, you just keep dropping info like it's hotcakes, man. I can't really complain because this is all really interesting, but during a recent Final Fantasy 14 live stream, he got to talking a little bit about Final Fantasy 16 and the technical prowess of the game, as well as the PlayStation 5 console. And this was translated by Genki on Twitter, who, big ups to Genki, he does a lot of really great work, not just in the Final Fantasy community, but in the gaming community as a whole. So thanks to him for this translation. He goes on to say, Yoshi P says that the Final Fantasy 16 Revenge trailer is all real time and that the game will show the power of the PlayStation 5. Yoshi P states, it's all real time rendering, the latest trailer. No loading. It's become a game that is like, look at the power of the PlayStation 5. He also continues to say that if you want to turn the camera, you can turn it. So this is really cool. This is technically my first go around with Yoshi P games and Yoshi P interviews. I wasn't too familiar with him beforehand. I know he has a really large fan base, but to have a developer that is just so open with information in regards to his game, it's really refreshing. And for him to just kind of drop these little nuggets here and there, it really keeps people interested. It's like a high quality breadcrumb trail, I guess you could say. And we did recently learn that Final Fantasy 16 will in fact be a PlayStation 5 console exclusive, with it most likely going to PC 6 months after its release, but that means no Xbox. And while that sucks for Xbox users, this is actually kind of the upside to a game being console exclusive, in that it allows the developers to really take full advantage of said console, in this case the PlayStation 5. Yoshi P and his team can really squeeze that system for all it's got and push it to its limits to achieve, some of the best graphical and performance fidelities possible. And you don't have to worry about the limitations that another console might have. And that's not to say that the Series X is a weak console, because it's not. It's very powerful. But when you have one game on one platform, I feel like that's a much easier development cycle and process. And before we move into that Capcom information, we do have some new breaking translations directly from Genki in regards to a Yoshinori Kitase interview from Famitsu. And in this interview, they asked him about his goals for the year of 2023. So again, thank you to Genki for translating this stuff on the fly. So in the interview, he was asked what the key word of 2023 for him would be, and he says 7. I plan to keep this for the next few years. So obviously that's in regards to this new Final Fantasy 7 compilation that they're creating. We're going to be getting content from this series for the next couple of years, so that makes sense. Now here's where things get interesting. He also includes the word ambition. We will continue to celebrate the 25th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII with 7 campaigns, and we would like to deliver further information on 7 Rebirth at the right time. Please stay tuned. Now, 7 campaigns. What does he mean by 7 campaigns? Is this a marketing thing? Like there's going to be 7 individual social media campaigns taking place over the next year and a half or so to build up hype for Rebirth? Or is he talking about games as campaigns, 7 new ones in particular, since we technically already have 5. Final Fantasy VII Remake, there's Rebirth, there's the third part of the trilogy, there is Crisis Core, and then there's Final Fantasy VII Ever Crisis, which makes 5. That would leave 2 left. So this is really interesting. It's not a translation error. Genki is pretty certain that he got this correct. So I am wondering, are we going to get 2 more games in this 7 compilation, or is it just a marketing thing? Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think. Now getting on to that really interesting Capcom news in regards to that cease and desist. So there are fan developers out there who were creating a fan-made remake for Code Veronica as well as the first Resident Evil. Now I won't show any footage or screenshots from these fan-made projects because, well, Capcom is sending out those cease and desists, and I would like to not get my channel shut down, but the projects themselves look pretty legit. Again, they are using assets that Capcom created, and if you were to take a quick glance at these screenshots, you would probably think that this was an official game from Capcom to a degree, which seems to be causing a little bit of an issue to the point where Capcom sent out a cease and desist to them to stop these projects. And if we look at the Twitter account for these fan-made projects, they have tweeted out, Code Veronica and Resident Evil fan remakes are officially canceled by Capcom. We apologize for the inconvenience and disappointment. All info on the developer Discord, thank you. So this is really interesting. Again, I took a look at these trailers and the screenshots, and it is using those assets created by Capcom, whether it's the environments or the character models or the weapons. It's got the over-the-shoulder look, so there's a lot of speculation in regards to why Capcom would send out a cease and desist, because some people have pointed out that there have been other fan-made projects that Capcom has not gone after. And what makes this story really interesting is that, if I'm not mistaken, years ago there was a fan project to remake Resident Evil 2, and if I'm not mistaken, Capcom actually, in a pretty friendly way, shut that project down because they had their own official Resident Evil 2 remake in the pipeline, and they didn't really seem to make too much of a big fuss over that project. Capcom has usually been pretty friendly towards their fans, whether it's Resident Evil or Street Fighter, and it comes to all of these fan mods and remakes. So the fact that they actually sent out a cease and desist for these projects is really interesting. So there's two scenarios here. One, the first one being, obviously they're using assets made by Capcom, and there is money being exchanged behind the scenes to help fund this project, which is a pretty big no-no in the gaming industry. It's actually kind of a big no-no in the entertainment industry as a whole. Taking money for something that you didn't technically create fully is not a good look. So it's possible that that is the reason why Capcom sent out a cease and desist. So that is a little odd, which leads to the next theory, and that's maybe Capcom really is planning a remake for Code Veronica or Resident Evil 1 remake. So it would be a Resident Evil 1 remake, I guess is what it would be, which those two definitely make the most sense. They've remade Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, and are now currently working on 4. It would make sense to go back and take a game like RE1 and especially Code Veronica and give it the remake treatment, new control schemes, slightly rebooted story, over-the-shoulder camera, something that is much more in line with these newer remakes. It's a refresh, and it makes it easier for people to access these titles. And back in October, Noisy Pixel did do an interview with the producer of Resident Evil 4, and in that interview he was asked about a possible Code Veronica remake, and although he said there are no concrete plans to do one, if the opportunity ever came up, they would definitely consider it. So this is some rather interesting and unfortunate news. Again, if you look at the trailers and the screenshots, they're using those Capcom assets, and this would likely confuse a lot of people who would think that this might actually be an official game from Capcom themselves. Now, with that being said, that is pretty much the video. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you think of this little nugget of information that Yoshi P dropped? And what do you think about this cease and desist being sent to these fan developers for these Code Veronica and RE1 remake projects? I will see you guys in the next video. Please remember to always be excellent to one another.